Thursday afternoon chat. Your favorite artists with Jayar.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your paws together for today's guest, Jordan from Apollo LTD. Thank you for taking time, sir.
Glad to be here.
I was in the neighborhood, J-Rock.
Just happened to be walking by.
Yeah. We're missing one of the members of Apollo LTD because he's got a tummy ache. So, I wanted to say, hey, Adam, this show is on in Orlando, Tampa, Atlanta, Jacksonville, all over the world.
Where you at, bro?
And you're just going to lie in bed drinking chicken soup. And so we're going to roll on with Jordan today.
Somehow, some way.
Who is the band? I mean,
let's be honest.
You're the one who has a relative that was an astronaut.
That is true.
So you are Apollo LTD. Let's just go with that.
Not me.
We are going to play.
Adam, you'll watch this. I don't condone that.
Adam's not going to watch this. No. But a lot of people are going to watch this on Instagram and Facebook. And so, like we've been doing with a lot of the artists, we're going to give you a chance to pick your background.
Okay.
So here are 3 choices for you. Let's go with, because Apollo LTD, let's go with outer space setting behind us, the moon behind us, or the Great Wall of China. What would you like to do this interview from?
Great Wall of China sounds tempting. I'm going to go with the moon.
Okay, let's hit the
I'm just
button.
going to go for it.
So there we are. We made it. Apollo LTD. We're going to conduct this interview from the big rock in the sky.
Surface of the moon.
Real quick, hopefully you've probably been asked this by, some random faith-based station in Des Moines, Iowa. But if you had made it to the moon, what would be something cool you would have loved to have left? And initials in the ground to something from your kid, just so every time you look up, you're like, I left that up there, and it's there right now.
I would take that really old, dirty mask that I wore for like 12 months that's hanging on my gear lever in my car.
I don't even want it on this planet. It's staying.
I would leave that bad boy up there, and I'd be like, boom, I'm leaving 2020 with it. It's on the moon.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great answer, actually. I like that. So if you're seeing any of this on our socials, that's where we're going with the moon setting here today. Let's play new music, or the latest from Apollo LTD. I've not had you talk about this song yet, Sunday Morning Feeling, with Ryan Stevenson on it. If you could walk me up, just kind of where it came from, the song.
Yeah, so Sunday Morning Feeling, we wrote, Adam and I wrote it with a good friend of ours, and it was it's a feel-good track. It's something that you have those days where you're like, I'm just so tired of writing heavy stuff. There's a lot going on. We wrote it in 2020, and it was kind of one of those days where you're like, man, I just like, the sun's out. Can we just write something happy today? Yeah. Like, let's just try to tap into some good vibes.
I'm getting the vibe you really didn't like the pandemic. You leaving your mask on the moon.
I don't know if you guys know this. Wasn't quite into it. No, but it's a fun song. Yeah. It was just kind of, we wrote it about like those old, like the days of growing up, going to church, and just all the memories associated with that. So we had a good time doing it. And then we sent it to Ryan because he's a buddy, and we thought his voice would sound great on it. Let's see if he wants to.
See if he's doing anything. He's in a giant money vault counting Eye of the Storm money going, what?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, somebody wants my voice? No, it's Apollo. Okay.
Last time I had you on the show, one of the two of you was having a child or had just had. But either way, it would have been very, very young or not even born yet when we did that chat. So what, now that we're a couple years out, did they not put in the parenting brochure that you have uncovered?
Oh, man, so much.
It's a giant brochure.
Oh, it's a big brochure, and there's a lot of fine print, a lot of things I did not know. Well, said child, when we talked to you guys last, was probably his. At the time, I think I had mine. She's 2 now. We're potty training. Yeah. The brochure definitely missed out on learning how to read your child's face when they're about to go poop wherever you are, like in your house, on the floor, wherever. Yeah. That's one that just kind of comes to the top of my mind. Yeah, it's,
I had a kid that, I'm not going to finger painting with.
Oh, no.
No, we won't. I'll tell you in the podcast.
Yeah. It sounds brutal.
Yeah, along these lines, when I first became a parent, Napster was about to become not as secretive. MySpace was just starting to rock. CDs were flourishing. It was kind of that window. For you, you have a little child around a pandemic. What is a positive that came out? Because it's not everybody's case, you know.
Right.
But it is your reality to have a little one in a pandemic, where to watch your little girl have to go instinctively know I have to go into this store with a mask. That wasn't my early parenting days, but it's yours.
Yeah.
So what's been some positives?
Yeah. I mean, I think that on the whole, just having time. I mean, we had it was like the world kind of paused there for a while, you know what I mean? And there was a lot of anxiety in the world, but it was all of a sudden we were planning on being gone, playing shows and traveling, and I think we were mentally prepared to be like gone for a lot of the year. And then when this happened, we were actually out on the road when everything kind of came to a stop. And I think that in a lot of ways we really valued the time we got to spend with our kids because we didn't think we were going to have it. And now it's like the world's kind of stopped here for a little bit, and it allowed us to kind of be present, spending time. I mean, that's the one. Time really is kind of that one unrenewable resource. You know, you can work all you want, but the truth is, man, especially, and for me, I realized it when I had a kid, you know, my wife and I did, that like time is the most valuable thing.
Yeah, because they print more money every day. It just
that's happening.
Printed.
I hear.
But time, they haven't found a way to do that yet. So,
nope.
Will you walk me up, Patient? I don't think I've had you on since we started playing that. Where did Patient come from?
Yeah, Patient was a song that we wrote in 2019 that became a lot more applicable in 2020. But we wrote it in 2019, and it almost made the cut on our first record. Yeah. But it was just a little bit late. And so this was actually one of the only songs we didn't write in 2020 that's on our new album. Okay. But yeah.
And just the heart behind the story.
Yeah. I think that for us, it was written in a season of our lives where we were just uncertain about what God was doing, what God was up to. And, you know, there's days where we feel like, you know, doing life is, forgive the analogy, but it's kind of like farming, you know, and some days you're seeing the harvest, you're seeing God, like things are blooming and you're seeing fruit of labor, and it's really exciting, obviously, those seasons of life. But then there's a lot of seasons where you're like, I just feel like I'm plowing, putting one foot in front of the other. And I think this song, Patient, was definitely written in a season of plowing and not really knowing what was going on, but trusting that God's providential in all of it.
I have to ask you, we did this. There was a conversation at the radio station months ago. Three people somebody had brought up, hey, what is the greatest song of faith all time? And I was like, Amazing Grace has got to be it. It's been sung around the world. And somebody else is like, but I can only imagine it's the most purchased song in the history.
I'll give you 10,000 reasons why that's not true.
Well, wait, that's in here. Because somebody else said Hillsong's Oceans has got to be. Yeah. So we put it out to the audience and we got it from 30, and then like an NCAA bracket, we had it down to 16 just humdingers, and they narrowed it down to a final four, and they ended up choosing I Can Only Imagine, Reckless Love, Corey Asbury, Beautiful Name, What a Beautiful Name by Hillsong, and Amazing Grace, any version, but the song in general. Which of those four would you have voted for on our Instagram in the final four? Or would you have gone with a wild card that's not in the final four?
See, I feel like oh man, that's hard. Because I feel like the Amazing Grace thing is legit, because it's like that's like the Muhammad Ali of, you know what I mean? It's kind of like classic. I Can Only Imagine, though, was definitely one of those songs that has stood the test of time. Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody can remember when that song came out, and then here we are 25 years later, and everyone's still
Oh, no, what were you going to say? Sorry. I'm going to leave that in, too. I'm just saying it was so great, we couldn't stop playing it. Even non, general market stations were like, we'll take some of that too.
See, that's kind of my measuring. The barometer kind of is like mass knowledge of the song, I think Amazing Grace and I Can Only Imagine are definitely 1 and 2. I'll go 1 and 2.
Jordan, my father worked at a grocery store for 40 years. He was the guy that would go through and change the price tags on everything in the store. Every time a price would change, it was his job to print off the new labels and go change it. And he went up and down the store for 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Glamorous, right?
Yeah.
But the perks as a little boy was when the store would close, I got to run with a closed door for hours while he finished up, and I would just like nobody else would have that experience except somebody who had a dad that worked at it.
Yeah.
For you with your parents, you can pick one. What was a perk that came with your parents' job?
Oh man. So my dad was in full-time ministry. He had a women's crisis pregnancy resource center in downtown Atlanta. This is not what you would expect.
I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, no. This is definitely, I'm not going where you think it would. So his office was in downtown Atlanta across the street from a Lamborghini dealership. Huh. Oddly enough.
Yeah.
You know, downtowns have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there was like a Lamborghini dealership. So as a kid in the early 90s,
Yeah.
I would love to go to my dad's office,
Right.
you know, because he was like, I could go look at the awesome
Oh,
cars. Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty random. But
Yeah.
so I guess it's not a perk of where he was working, but he was in the general vicinity. So I knew that if I was going down to the care center, that I was going to get to go like,
Oh, yeah. No, that's a perfect answer because you're one of the only ones that could share that story in that spot. As a little boy, I couldn't even imagine, like, think about me. I'm running past boxes of macaroni.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
Yes, exactly.
You're seeing Lambos. No, that's perfect.
yeah.
An article came out a couple months ago I shared with my audience, Jordan. There was a poll of Americans that said the average American thinks that they could last 2 months in the wilderness. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks in the wilderness.
Okay, I was like 2 months. Wow.
So picture
Okay.
wilderness, not like
Yeah.
just woods, but how long, based on your skill set, you're a musician, but you also, you know, think about food, think about safety,
Yeah.
all that. How long do you think you could make?
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Not very long. But I did watch that Netflix show Alone. I don't know.
yeah.
Did anybody watch that? You guys watch that?
I may have. Is it Bill
It's
Bear
where they take real like people who have skills and they put them out in the wilderness and they last for like months and months and months. I have watched that, so I do feel like I would use moss. I would go to rocks and I would find moss.
Yeah.
And I would cover myself in that moss every night.
Yeah.
So I could admit, just with the moss alone, I think I could last at least a solid 72 hours.
And
After that, it's a coin toss.
What about finding food? How tough would that be for you? Obviously, it depends on if you're near water.
Depends on if you're near water. Depends if you have a taste for maggots and snails, things like that.
Yeah. And do you?
I don't. So I would have to find myself some Wagyu beef or like some chicken, some free range chickens or something. I don't know if they're in. It just depends, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that we're not talking
And
about.
if you can catch a boar and know what to do with it,
Yeah.
like when you've been eating berries and all of a sudden you get bacon, like that would freak me out.
Adam would be, I'll say, the other 49% of this band that's not here, 49.5%. He's hunted before.
Yeah.
So I think he could do it. I think he has a big beard. I think he'd blend in.
That'll help
That will help.
for warmth.
Helps for the facial warmth.
You know what's funny for people like Adam that could feed themselves well is you never know, like that show, the loneliness was one of the big hits for people. So even though they had skills, they couldn't outskill the loneliness of not speaking to a human.
Yeah.
And you start losing your mind.
I'm pretty extroverted. Honestly, I think by the time the helicopter flew away, I'd be like, yeah, I give up.
Yeah.
Like this isn't going to work.
You're extroverted, like you're
Yeah,
outgoing.
I mean, I like being around people. So, I mean, I think I could, to answer your question seriously, no joke, I think I could make it I'm gonna give it 4 nights.
Okay.
4 nights.
And when they find you, you've developed a friendship with a squirrel. Like
I'm crying. I'm covered in moss.
Cuddling with
Just
a
like
possum.
still trying to gag my way through eating these maggots that I found under a log. It would be ugly.
Yeah.
There's nothing pretty about this scenario.
Okay. Follow me on this. Did you ever see that Noah movie where Russell Crowe? People said it was real freaky because they like had weird people that like this. I didn't read this in scripture. Like where there was like rock people. Like the dude messed with the story pretty bad, but it was great CGI. Spent millions on this story of Noah, but it was made by a non-believer, so he was just trying his best as somebody who didn't really care about the scriptures. Yeah. But the story in scripture that you've always been enamored by, that you would love to see a gazillion dollar CGI, spare no expense. Oh. And we're taped, so you can take your time with it, but like from David to creation to all that.
Yeah, I mean, let's go just like full Steven Spielberg on the whole creation story thing. I mean, come on. That would be pretty incredible if we were like...
That would have to be all CGI. Like hardly anything...
It would be entirely CGI.
Just the creation of animals. There was
and like we're taking ribs and we're creating... I mean, come on, man.
The garden scene would have to be a little edited, but once you, like, you know...
A little bit of editing there. We'd you know, we'd keep it appropriate.
Show neck up, but, you know, just... I read a book one day. It was who's that guy that writes for God, that Christian Matt? He wrote a book called Epic, Wild at Heart.
Oh yeah,
John Eldredge.
Yeah.
He describes in this little, it's like a pamphlet almost called Epic, about the day of creation. Is like you take crazy things for granted. We take things for granted. Think about on that day, just elephants. You see it and you don't think about it, but I'm like, when God was doing all this stuff, they're just there now.
Yeah.
And
they weren't before, but now they are.
Fish and plants and food and all that stuff. That would be interesting. You'd have to have a storyline. You know, 7 days. It'd be it's a timeline of
you'd have to have a little clock going in the bottom so we knew where we were at.
And
like,
there
where
needs
are we
to
at
be
in this process.
There needs to be a relationship, like peril. Like, are these two gonna make it? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, and then God created trees. Yeah. That would be interesting. David has always been one that I think nobody's ever done it proper. You think of little boy walking up to giant you got 20 minutes right there of just that's killer. Yeah. That scene. But then he has to go back and you're going to be king. But he didn't go be king. He's back shepherding for 20 years. Yeah. Knowing
he just kind of put that on hold for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Saul hunting him down. You know, again, let's edit with Bathsheba. There's a lot of parts to his life that would be
pretty complicated, which I think would be cool.
Yeah.
But you'd have to tell that. I feel like, see, if you're gonna do the David thing, we'd need another series. You know, kind of like they did with Chosen. You know,
right?
Like,
yeah,
we would need some character development,
right?
Which would be amazing.
Oh yeah,
but. Yeah, that would be a good one, for sure.
You know, we'll call Jim Caviezel and see if he's free.
Yeah, come on, where you at, bro?
What you been doing?
Get on it, man. I know this is working, but you got to move on to the next one, man.
Thanks. This is shot number 2, and I think you did fine holding down the fort, being 49% of Apollo LTD.
I tried.
Yes. Always appreciate the time, man. Jordan. Perfect.
The Thursday Afternoon Chat. Your favorite artists with Jayar.